Joe, what do you got?
Yes. The question of the week is, who's the kindest person you know?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Anybody can jump in.
Charles doesn't know any kind people, so.
My wife immediately comes to mind because she is pretty amazing. But I wanted to give a shout out to my dad. He was one of the most charitable people that I've ever known. I remember different times where we would pick up a hitchhiker on the side of the road, or he gave a homeless person a job when he owned his own business, and like went out and bought him clothes and everything, only to have the guy like a day later just ghost us, but that didn't, the intention is what mattered, not always the result. Results are good, but when it comes to charity, a lot of times the intention is what really matters. So
gotcha.
Wow. Well, I mean, if you guys don't mind, I'll jump in because when I thought about when I heard the question, I immediately thought of my wife as well. My wife is just giving to a fault, and it's like something that's an ongoing conversation in our household. We've been married 22 years, and she's just constantly the type of person to always give the back, off the shirt off her back, and then complain about what happens afterwards because people don't do right or don't return the favor, to the extent, and the irony is she's nice to everybody except me. I don't get that same kind of grace, so I'd say her. Yeah.
What about you, Kurt?
Yeah, this is a hard one for me. The thing is, I know a lot of kind people. And so finding like the kindest is really difficult for me. Oh boy, this is going to sound really weird, but I think my daughter might be the kindest person I know.
Okay.
And it's an odd call out, but she always puts her heart out there and is always willing to just treat people nicely. And she manages a restaurant. Okay, so she is in a position where you could absolutely see that not being the case, because there's opportunities. But she just and it showed from when she was a little kid. Even it's just that's such a hard one though. Yeah. Because I think here's why it's really hard for me, and not just because it's Christmas, but I think people genuinely are kind. I think they are. Look. We
Charles,
all know.
We know the circles you run in.
I didn't
say the world.
So here's the thing. I want to differentiate. I don't think that people are kind 100% of the time, but I think basically, and it falls along the lines that I think that people are generally good. I really just do. And prove me otherwise, sure. And we've all had bad experiences with people. I get it, but I mean, I think at the core, people are genuinely kind and good. And sometimes we get in our own way by not allowing that to come out.
I love that for you. I do. And this is why Hallmark movies are shot in Vermont and New Hampshire, because I guess that's where the kindness lives.
Except none of them actually are.
I mean, I think anybody can be. I think most people are selfish versus self-centered, but that's a whole other thing. I did look up the definition of kind just to make sure I understood what we're going for, Joe. And it says a group of people or things that have similar characteristics. So we're not quite defining this right. But no, I know what you mean. You mean people are generous, helpful, and who think of other people's feelings. And had I gone first, I would say, of course, that's me. That's me. I'm on brand. I am kind all the time. But everybody else suggested somebody else. So I got three for you that to me really fit that, right? What you talked about, giving to a fault, even if you turn around going, the world doesn't give back, is Tyra Burton. right? She will give away her energy at the sake of her health to help other people and just do amazing things for people. You've got Steven Adams, America's dad, right? Who just he is to me one of the go-to dads, if I could, to say, teach me how to parent. You know, he's very generous and kind and helpful. He thinks of other people's feelings all the time. And then, believe it or not, it is the house gremlin, Phil Keating. You know, he's generous, helpful, you know, and Kurt is about to poop on you. So I endorse Kurt's pooping.
Not at all. I was going to say, I agree with you. But Phil is a perfect example of someone who at his core is kind. Is he always kind? No.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, see, I would argue different. He tries to cover it up with the gremlinness, and he can be gremlin sometimes, but he still he feels bad about it because he wants to be. And he knows you should be generous and helpful and thoughtful.
But none of us are perfect, right? So, and I mean that sincerely. I mean, so that, you know, yeah. But I think you're right. I think Phil definitely is a kind person.
And it is funny, Hotep, how you brought up. I've seen that happen many a time, where people are giving into the world, and then they get irritated. And even in my own household, it feels like at times. Now, I've been married going on 24 years now, and I still introduce her just to irritate her. I introduce her as my first wife just to see what she does about that. But we actually had that conversation, 10, 15 years into the marriage. It's like, out there, you'll be pleasant. You'll be sometimes it's faking it, sometimes it's not. But here it's like you just unload on me, and it became a conversation about the safety of home, right? So I get what you're saying. Is like I don't seem to get the same kindness, and sometimes we don't realize how much we even crap on those that we trust the most and love the most. But we've tried to raise our kids by example of being kind and generous. And I was a little shocked this year. My middle son, we were at the rec center here in Conyers, and they have an angel tree, and it's a community angel tree, and it's for those really truly needy in our community. And it's if you don't know what an angel tree is, it's anonymous, and it's usually for kids of needy families or some other type of family along those lines. I've dealt with one that was parents were in prison specifically kind of deal, and they put a need and like 2 wants on there. And typically the rules are when you say, I am going to take this, you have to spend a minimum of a certain amount because you don't want to cheap out. That's just wrong. And you can't just buy the one thing. You have to buy the need and the desire, right? And you just agree ahead of time. And we've done that for years. And when we asked my middle son rather this year if he wanted to do it, he said no. And we're all like, we're going to respect your decision, but that's odd because for your entire life we have done this. So we're working on. He's 13 and I guess he's figuring out life, but you got to put out into the world what you want to have. So true. This is why I don't put snow out in the world because I'm good without it. Hey Joe, why don't we go ahead and talk about the not next week's, but the promotional question of the week instead of waiting for the commercial break.
Okay, well, real quick before we do that, we do have a couple of comments from Discord about this question. So Mithra Beata, who has been on the show, excellent guest, she says, one of my cousins, she virtually helped raise me when I needed her as a teen, and my mom needed help.
Nice.
Wow.
So, and then Casey J says, honestly, probably my wife, who is amazing and amazingly caring. About 3 weeks ago, my 1-year-old nephew had a medical emergency, and he and my sister were flown down here. About an hour drive for us, but 6 hours from my sister's home. And my wife instantly organized a list of things, packed phone charger, hairbrush, etc., stopped into the shops and bought her snacks and dinners, shampoo, toothpaste, etc., and spent the whole day with her, comforting her and keeping her calm. I have two other siblings and their partners and my parents, none of who offered to help. The exception being my older brother and his wife, who bought a car seat and drove 2 hours down and back to pick them up a couple days later, and then 4 hours up and then back the following day.
Yeah. That's awesome. Honestly, my wife does some of the same stuff, but she doesn't listen to the show, so I'm not shouting her out. That's how it works.